All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick King, and I am the Sustainable Households Manager here at Urban Green Lab. For those of you who have yet to meet, I'm a South Louisiana native, and I've been here in Nashville for about 3 years, and I've been with Urban Green Lab for about 9 months. And today I'm here with Jenn Harrman of Metro Nashville Public Works for our first edition of Sustainable Nashville Live. The purpose of this series is to open a dialogue between the public and organizations that are contributing to the great work around sustainability here in Nashville. Now, before we begin, I'd like to remind you all that Urban Green Lab is a nonprofit, and if you feel so inclined to support us, you can make a donation on our website at www.urbangreenlab.org, or you can text Team UGL, all one word, to 44321, and you can get a donation link sent to your phone. Now, with that said, let's get going. Jenn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, Patrick.
Great to hear, and also great having you here. So first things first, could you tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what brought you to Nashville?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the Waste Reduction Program Manager with Metro Nashville Public Works. My background, I've had a lot of experience doing digital communications, public outreach. My education is actually in interior design and historic preservation. So a little bit unusual to then end up working in waste. But through that, through historic preservation, I've worked for historic house museums, done a lot of tour guiding, and a lot of really interfacing with the public and help teaching the public about historic resources. And done a lot of, I was also kind of the token millennial, if you will, at some organizations. So because of that, I was able to early get a lot of experience with social media and digital marketing. So that's how I've kind of entered into the communications field. And then now I've been with Metro government for a little over 3 years now, started with Metro Water Services, doing some communications and sharing the value of water, a resource, a really important resource, but a little bit different. And then now I'm here at Public Works, really excited to be working with waste reduction and helping educate the community about how they can reduce their waste, how they can recycle right, and just live more sustainable lives from a waste management perspective.
That's awesome. Are you a Nashville native?
Oh, I'm not. I am from St. Louis. I've lived in Chicago for about 8 years. My formative years, I like to say, were in Chicago. Enjoyed it very much. And then I moved here about 5 years ago. My partner got a job at the Nashville Public Library, and I've got a lot of family here, so I was really excited to have the opportunity to move to Nashville. Nashville as a town, I am running into all the same people and getting to know it as a community, and I really love that. That was something I didn't have in Chicago.
Yeah, I feel like you're able to do that a little bit more in Nashville because it's not as big, but it's big enough in certain ways.
Absolutely.
So how did you get interested? How did you get interested in sustainability and/or your current field? I know you have a design background. So.
Yeah, it actually started in my interior design. So my undergraduate degree, LEAD, was really big, leadership in energy and environmental design. And as an interior design professional, they were really starting to look at that time at, energy efficient products and materials and how design can be more sustainable. So I got really interested in recycled carpet and, just all kinds of interesting products. And then also at the same time, I had a class on historic preservation. And I realized that's how I ended up in historic preservation, because I realized I really cared about reusing old buildings so that they don't end up in landfill. It's especially here in Nashville, too. There is so much construction and demolition going on. And whether the building is historic or not, we can reuse so much of that material, whether it's kept in place or whether it is deconstructed and recycled and reused. There's just so many options, and it's such a huge amount of waste. So it really kind of started there.
Yeah, and some people would say that reusing older buildings gives you really cool aesthetic. So.
Oh, absolutely, and it gives you a sense of place as well. I really feel like you walk by an old building and you get the feeling of the place that you're in. New buildings can do that too, absolutely. But reusing old buildings, all for it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. How would you say your current role intersects with creating a more sustainable community in Nashville?
Yeah. Well, as a waste reduction program manager, my job really is working with moving Nashville towards its zero waste master plan. So that means we're looking at, it was completed in 2016, and the goal is to keep 90% of what Nashville throws away out of landfills. In Nashville in 2019, the average Nashvilleian threw away 7.7 pounds of trash every single day. When you think about 7.7 pounds, you might think, well, for me, it's the weight of a bowling ball that I'd be able to use because I'm not very good at bowling. But, you know, you think about that weight, but then think about that in terms of your trash and your waste. When you're throwing away, you know, plastic bags or all of these things that are really lightweight, that's a whole lot of trash, 7.7 pounds. So what I do is I've been brought on to do community education, absolutely, trying to help people understand. We've been really big into recycling right now, trying to help people understand how to recycle right so they can recycle more and recycle more effectively. Reducing food waste is a huge part of that. So we've got composting programs, hoping to get some composting webinars coming up. We've got some recycling webinars going on right now. That actually start next week. So yeah, anything around reducing your waste and helping the community of Nashville just manage our waste in a more sustainable way.
That's awesome. You bring up a lot of good points, and we're going to actually talk about the solid waste master plan in a little bit. But you said the average Nashvilleian in 2019 produced 7.2 pounds of garbage a day.
7.7 pounds of trash is what the average Nashvilleian is throwing away.
I'm pretty sure that's well above the national average, right?
In 2017, I think was the last time that I've seen from the EPA their records, but in 2017 we were 30% above the national average.
Okay, so that's not.
It's, but you know, that's why I'm so excited to be in this role, because I have an opportunity to provide some community education around that, help people understand, you know, that there are better ways that we can manage this waste so that, you know, we can reduce that number.
For sure. Are there any misconceptions that people have about Metro Public Works, and what do you want Nashville to know about your organization?
Oh, are there misconceptions? The biggest one is glass recycling. I think once a week, somebody in some form or fashion reaches out to us to let us know that they know we are throwing all of the glass away and that it's not getting recycled, but is there a way that we can recycle glass? Well, I want everyone to know we absolutely are recycling the glass that gets dropped off at our recycling sites. It's actually kept separate from recycling because it can affect the other recyclables. So it doesn't go through the sorting facility. It's why we don't want you putting it in your curbside bin. Glass stays separate. Once you drop it off at those drop-off sites, it's then taken to a separate bay where it's then loaded onto trucks and sent to be turned into other glass products, other glass containers, glass bottles, and fiberglass. So it absolutely is getting recycled.
Okay. That kind of leads to our next question. What's the one question you hear often and wish everyone knew the answer to?
Well, I really get one main question, but it's kind of open-ended. It's the, can I recycle blank?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a complicated question, and I do wish that everybody had the answer to it. But I kind of see that kind of on a much bigger scale. Recycling is really complicated, and it would be really nice if it wasn't so complicated. And to make that happen, there's a lot that has to go into that from kind of a really high level. But I would really love it if recycling was just a little bit easier for people. So.
Okay. In your own words, what kind of tactics or changes would have to be made at a higher level to make recycling more efficient, I guess? Would it be at a governmental level or at a corporate level?
Definitely at a corporate level. It takes a lot of working parts. There's right now some legislation that's going through the federal government, the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. that would put a lot of the onus of recycling collection programs and the cost of recycling back onto industries. So right now the way it works is the industry makes the product and then it comes down to municipal recycling programs to then manage all of that waste. So if there were more partnerships, more opportunities on the front end through those corporations to fund those types of recycling collection programs and make things just in the first place more recyclable, that would be a huge, huge step. And there's, like I said, there's that legislation going through at the federal level. It would be great to see more of that.
Great. Urban Green Lab has launched a campaign called Find Your Lab, #FindYourLab, which encourages everyone to explore sustainable living and create a lab of learning in their own life. Could you tell us something that you're currently working on in your own life to become more sustainable?
Yeah, I'm kind of always working on little things, but my big number one goal for it actually was a goal I had a few months ago, and then we stopped coming into work. But I want to start biking to work. When I lived in Chicago, I biked everywhere, and I've been a little bit apprehensive to start biking here, probably because it's really hilly in Nashville. Not as flat as Chicago is, but now that we're starting to get back into the office a little bit, I'm really excited to to actually bike to work and start being a little bit more sustainable in my commute.
Yeah. So before I moved to Nashville, I lived in New Orleans, and it was a completely flat city, and that made biking so much easier.
It's very easy. Yeah.
A lot easier. So next question that we have here, curbside versus convenience centers. Why is there a need to separate for one but not the other?
That's a really good question. So curbside recycling, everything's dumped into the one container. You don't have to separate it, except you can't put glass in there. So it's just a matter of that collection system then goes to our recycling sorting facility. And goes through a lot of machinery, technology, people that go and sort all those materials out so they can then be sold. With drop-off recycling, it goes to the same facility, but by separating it out, we're able to take those much larger bins. They're transported in a little bit different way, so that large, big roll-off bin just goes and can be dumped into its different section and doesn't necessarily have to go through as much sorting, which lowers the cost of recycling by quite a bit and makes it just a lot easier to get those materials where they need to go.
Okay, so I guess it's more of a thing of efficiency for the larger bins to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, excellent. In Williamson County, excuse me, they recently suspended their curbside recycling services because it was classified as non-essential. Is there any light you can shed why that is?
I'm not really sure about Williamson County, but I can tell you on a national level, recycling has been considered an essential service. And it's really important, especially now that we're in this very unique time of COVID. There are a lot of industries that are not open right now, and industrial recycling is where a lot of material comes from for essential items like making toilet paper and making the pumps that go on cleaning products. And so municipal recycling systems are becoming a huge support for those particular industries and for those particular products. So recycling here, we definitely understand that it is an essential part of our economy and to be able to provide those products that people desperately need right now. Although I'm very glad to see toilet paper back on the shelves, but recycling is a way to make sure that continues to happen.
Okay, awesome. So my next question to that was going to be what makes it essential in Nashville, and I guess you just already stated that.
There you go.
With many cities and towns across the nation discontinuing their recycling services, are Nashville services at any risk?
At this time, no. Recycling services, like a lot of things, are subject to budgetary constraints. It's why we've unfortunately had to delay our every other week recycling. But at this point, there has not been any discussion of getting rid of recycling services. Recycling, like I said, it's important, it's essential, and also the community wants to recycle, and we want to make sure they can do that.
That's awesome. Now, this is a question that I kind of have the answer to, but I just want to hear it from you. What happens to our recycling after it goes into our curbside bin?
So first of all, I am going to push our webinar because I'm going to go into a lot of detail on this, as well as we've got video on it. So we've got webinars at recyclingeducation.nashville.gov that are coming up. But it goes into your curbside bin. We collect it, goes into the truck, and it goes to our contractor, Waste Management, to their recycling sorting facility. So from there, there's a lot of machinery, a lot of technology, and there's also people going through picking out all the things that shouldn't have been there, the trash, the plastic bags that can't be recycled. It goes through a whole process that includes a lot of moving parts. It's got fancy magnets, and it's just an incredible process that it goes through to be sorted. Once all of our materials are sorted, it gets baled, it gets smushed up into a cube, and then put onto a truck where it's shipped off to be sold to processors or manufacturers. Depending on the product will, of course, depend on where it goes. All those recyclables are just raw materials to make new products. So our plastics go where they're processed and turned into pellets to then be used to make new plastic products. Our paper products are sent to paper mills where they're turned into things like newspaper and toilet paper. So it just then gets shipped off to all the different people that we contract with, or that Waste Management contracts with, rather.
And does Waste Management handle our municipal services?
Yes. So Metro Public Works collects our recycling, and we take it to Waste Management's sorting facility, and then Waste Management manages the processing and the sale of all those recyclables.
Okay, awesome. And apologies to anyone listening. The rain just really kicked up, and I'm under a tin roof, so it is just a cacophonous noise of just rain. So my apologies for that. Our next question is, according to the Solid Waste Master Plan, Nashville's recycling diversion rate was about 12% in 2016, which is well below the national average of 30%. Do you have any insight into why that is?
That's a great question, and I think part of that comes with education. When I was brought on, that was the one reason why I was brought onto the Public Works team, to do a lot more education about recycling and how to recycle right, and getting people more involved in that program. So I think a huge part of that is just education. Yeah,
I would totally agree with you there. And kind of a follow-up question to this, are there any plans or tactics that you believe can help boost our diversion rate? You mentioned the webinars coming up next week, I believe, but aside from that?
For recycling in particular, or just in general?
In general. Diversion rates for recycling, food waste.
So one thing, when it comes to recycling, there's a lot of strategies that are in the Zero Waste Master Plan to really boost those rates. I think one thing that can really help would be, recycling it's a free service that's offered. There's the idea in the Zero Waste Master Plan to go to a program called Save As You Throw. So that is, the less that you throw out and the more that you divert, you get savings. Of course, that would be a program where then we'd have to transition from right now where those services are paid under the general fund through Metro government, so through your taxes. It would have to be a different type of program where there would be fees for collection service. But I've always been, a big believer if you don't see the value in it, you're not going to do it. And so if there are ways that we can help people understand that, recycling is at a cost, and so it's important for us to recycle, but it's also important for us to recycle right. I think, just helping people understand the value of what recycling does for us can help, I think, increase participation and also, increase those diversion rates. But also with recycling, it's not just residents. Residents only make up a small portion of what is out there in our, all of the waste that's getting thrown away or recycled. So construction and demolition, coming from a historic Nashville or a historic preservation background, I really want to see and find ways that we can help boost recycling at the construction and demolition level. That can be a huge, huge help as well to divert some of these materials out of our landfills.
Yeah. And referencing the solid waste master plan again, from that, I think over the overwhelming majority of our landfill waste was coming from the construction and demolition sector, right?
A huge portion comes from construction and demolition, and actually the other big portion is from food waste.
Okay. All right. It can be a little confusing what can and cannot be recycled, and it seems like over the last few months, less items were able to be recycled here in Nashville. Why is that?
Yeah. So one thing that we have done, and we've worked really hard with collaborating with our contractor with waste management to better understand what items are actually being recycled. So there's been a lot of changes on a global level to recycling programs. Some people have heard about bans in China on importing recyclable materials. So essentially, there was a lot of recycling in the United States that was being shipped to places like China where they were just taking everything. But a lot of those things that people think have been recyclable never actually were. So things like those berry clamshell containers you get in the produce section and weird plastic trays and all those things that we're no longer accepting. It turns out that we were able to accept them before but they weren't actually being recycled. And for us, that now local recyclers and regional manufacturers, people that are buying those recyclable products, they just aren't taking that trash anymore. It was never able to be recycled, so then they'd have to pick it out themselves. And now that just all of those changes, the bans with China have increased the cost of recycling all over the country. And so those manufacturers aren't taking those products. But more so for us, we don't want to tell our constituents, we don't want to tell residents here in Nashville that they can put something in their recycling bin that we know isn't actually getting recycled.
Yeah.
So that's why we've made really big change, not necessarily really big changes, but just tried to better clarify what our accepted materials are and why some of our accepted materials have changed, because we just know those items unfortunately never were being recycled. But hopefully they will be in the future and we can add them back to our program.
That is great I guess not great to hear, because I guess that's news to me. I didn't realize this entire time that the clamshell containers just weren't able to be recycled at all.
There's a few places in the United States that can take those containers. I think there's maybe 5 manufacturers that have the equipment that's able to recycle that material, because it takes a different process to recycle it than it does a plastic bottle or something else that's made from that same type of plastic. So there's some places in California that can take it. Of course, they're always at the forefront, but hopefully those markets and those industries will expand and we'll eventually be able to do that here as well.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yes.
Yeah. And I guess the initiative in China where they stopped accepting, American recycling products was called National Sword. Were any of Nashville's recyclable goods being shipped to China before that mandate?
No, we are, the recycling industry here in this area is actually really robust. The Southeast has a lot of manufacturing facilities and recycling industries. So all of our recyclables stay here in the Southeast region, which is, it's fantastic. It contributes to our local economy. It's a great thing. However, it was impacted simply because of the value of the recyclable materials and the costs changing, because the products that were being shipped overseas were kind of on the coastal areas, but that of course disrupts the entire economy of recycling throughout the country. So that's why we've still seen changes as a result of that.
Okay. Now, where can citizens find information on what can and can't be recycled, and how often is this information being updated?
So we have done a lot of work to overhaul all of our materials and information about what you can and cannot recycle. The best place to go is to recycle.nashville.gov. We have updated the website. We've got our basic information there. We really want people to focus on what you can recycle and put those materials in, and anything else, leave it out, because anything that can't be recycled makes it even more difficult for those good recyclables to get recycled. But if you are really wanting to dive deep into what you can and cannot recycle and why, we've put together a whole guide that has a detailed list of different materials. So that is available to download on recycle.nashville.gov. It's our Recycle Right Nashville guide, and it's It's very detailed. We're continuing to add to it. That was completed in April. I've already got a whole list of materials to add to it. We'll probably look at updating that at least quarterly, or just as we get more information and get more materials, we'll keep adding to it. But I think the big thing for people to remember is I know it's really hard, but try not to have anxiety and heartburn over, can this item go in the recycling bin or not? Be very confident about the things that you can put in there, and that's just really the best thing that you can do. Put the things can go in there, and if you're not sure, I know it's hard, but keep that out of the recycling bin.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. One phrase that I live by is when in doubt, throw it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And another one is another thing to live by is just not wish cycling. Don't put something in the bin that you hope can be recycled but are unsure.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. One of the other misconceptions that we have is that we have control over what can be recycled, and we don't. It's really the economy and the industries and the people that are using that material to turn it into something else. So, as much as you want something to be recycled, if someone's not turning it into something, it's unfortunately just trash, even if it's got a recycling symbol on it.
Yeah, for sure. If there's not a market for it, there's no one who's going to purchase those items to make them into other goods and items. Yeah. Got one more question for you. What is your sustainable vision for the city of Nashville?
This is a really good question, but there's so many little things that I would love to see here in Nashville for us to be a more sustainable community. But I think, ultimately, I've been fortunate to be part of the Mayor's Sustainability Advisory Committee that have done a really incredible job synthesizing all of the information from any of the sustainable teams that have been put together over the past few administrations to come up with an action plan for Nashville to be more sustainable. And I'd like to see those programs move forward. A lot of that comes, of course, from the Zero Waste Master Plan on our side, but there's, it goes into all facets of sustainability, and to see those programs start to move forward, I think that would be huge steps for Nashville, and yeah. Yeah,
no, I agree with you on that as well. Our executive director, Todd Lawrence, is a part of the mayor's sustainability advisory committee as well. So, yeah. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thanks so much, Jenn. If viewers have any additional questions or concerns that they would like to ask of you or Metro Public Works, is there a best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I am happy. If you want to email me, jenn.harrman@nashville.gov, jennharrman@nashville.gov. Please feel free to email me. But if you've got other kind of general questions, you can always reach out to Hub Nashville. They can answer a lot of your recycling questions, as well as almost any question you might have about Metro government. So they're hub.nashville.gov as well.
All right. And before we go, were there any events or anything like that you wanted to plug?
I'm just going to keep pushing our Recycle Right webinar, recyclingeducation.nashville.gov. We've got our June 9th program is already sold out. We have 200 people already on that webinar. So there are 3 more that we have. So every Tuesday at noon through the month of June, you can sign up, register, and if you have more questions, you can submit those. And you're going to learn everything you ever want to know about recycling.
Okay. I was planning on attending the webinar on Monday, but I guess since it's sold out, I'll have to wait until next Tuesday.
If you haven't registered yet, you will have to wait to a different one.
Okay. Really good information to know. All right, everybody. That is going to do it for our first edition of Sustainable Nashville Live. Next week, we'll be interviewing Nora Kern of Walk Back Nashville. If you have any questions for Nora or me, you can email me directly at patrick@urbangreenlab.org. Also, if there are any organizations you would be interested in learning more about, feel free to email me about that as well. Again, my email address is patrick@urbangreenlab.org. And until next time, live sustainably.